4:45 a.m. and the first thing my hands do, before I'm even upright on the cot, is reach for the table. Not for the coffee, not for the book. The table has three things on it: the propane burner, the books, and the HP 12C. My hands know the order of the surface. 37 years of muscle memory. The calculator is at the far right, exactly where it always sat on every desk, every drafting table, and every folding table, in every trailer, on every job site from Hesperia to Fontana. My hand finds it in the dark. I hold it for 3 seconds, maybe longer. Then I put it down and light the propane burner. Used to run cap rates before breakfast. Now I don't know what I'd run them on. That's not self-pity, it's just the math. Out here there's nothing to calculate. 5 acres, cinder block, tin roof, one window facing east. When the sun comes up, it hits the window at exactly the angle that warms the concrete floor. That's the only optimization available. You do it and then it's done. In 37 years of commercial real estate development, I never had a problem that took 4 seconds to solve. I make the instant coffee and watch the propane burner's low blue circle of heat. It took me 2 years to understand that that's a perfectly fine way to spend 4 minutes. Outside, the Mojave is still black. In 40 minutes it'll go to deep navy, then a grey-blue that doesn't have a name in construction color codes. Then the Joshua trees start to appear as silhouettes, dark against dark, until suddenly they're there. I've watched this 2,000 times since 2018, and I still don't understand the moment it shifts. It's not a line. It's a threshold you cross without noticing. Nobody asked me to optimize that either. The cabin is 14 by 16 feet, 224 square feet. Boone Properties Group, at peak, managed 31 properties totaling over 800,000 square feet of leasable space. Hold those two numbers together for a second. 224. 800,000. I want you to know what the trajectory looked like from the outside before I tell you what it looked like from the inside. I started in 1991. Before that, I was a site analyst in Bakersfield. I drove to parcels and told them whether the numbers worked. Absorption rates, cap rates on exit, comps. I was good at it. Good enough to think, why am I doing this for someone else? In 1991, I found a 14-unit strip mall site in Hesperia. High desert. Land nobody was paying attention to. I scraped together some equity from my savings, my father-in-law, and a few investors, and I built it. It leased in 97 days. I beat my projection by 23 days. I remember that number like a wedding date. It was the first time the real world matched my paper numbers and then beat them. It's the feeling of being right when everyone assumed you'd be wrong. I filed for Boone Properties Group that same year. Just me and Sandra, my wife, and a $300 a month office in a strip center I was already scheming to replace. Sandra ran the books. She was the CFO, the systems mind. She wasn't impressed by projections that couldn't withstand a stress test. She'd look at a pro forma and say, what happens if the anchor signs 6 months late? And show me the reserves. She was right more often than I was comfortable admitting. We made a good company together. I'm not sure we made a good marriage. By 1997, I had closed 7 projects. Then I got the Stater Brothers Market signing, a real anchor. Before Stater Brothers, I was a developer with a track record. After, I was a developer with relationships. That's the difference. The track record gets you the meeting. Relationships get you the next project, and the personal guarantee on the loan that might eventually take everything you've built. In 2004, the San Bernardino Sun called me the man who built the Inland Empire. There was a photo of me at a groundbreaking with that particular developer's smile, confident, visionary, and hiding the knot in my stomach because the lender was still asking for more comps. We had 31 active properties and a portfolio valuation of $280 million. The number was real and it was theoretical. On paper, it was an empire. In the parking lots, I could touch the brick and asphalt. That part was real. The rest was just a pro forma. Comps. That's how you price a property. You find comparable sales and see what they traded for. You never value the thing itself, only its relation to what's around it. You're not asking, what is this worth? You're asking, what do things like this cost? Every site analysis I ever ran was built on comps. 6,000 CMAs in 37 years. I didn't realize until I was sitting in a cinder block cabin at 62 that I had been running comps on everything in my life, not just the properties. Fontana Phase 2. The construction loan closed in December 2006, $47 million, personal guarantee. That means if the project fails, the bank doesn't just go after the company. They come for Dale Boone. The house, the savings, the retirement accounts, everything. This was normal. You ladder your projects, you manage exposure. I had run the worst case and decided I could live with it. I was wrong about one input. I assumed the market would soften, not collapse. I stress tested for a 25% correction. The actual collapse was 60 to 70%. When the residential market died, the commercial market followed. Anchor tenants started going dark, closing locations while still paying rent. A dark anchor kills the smaller shops. The net operating income drops, the coverage falls below covenant, and the lender calls the loan. Between 2008 and 2009, I lost 23 of 31 properties. 23 of 31. I didn't go bankrupt, but I negotiated through 16 months of stress that felt like a terrible clarity. Like a building on fire where you only think about which walls are load-bearing. No sentiment, just pure structure. I gave back the properties that needed to go back. I negotiated the Fontana guarantee down through 2 years of loss mitigation. When it was over, my financial situation was materially different. That phrase does a lot of work in that sentence. Sandra moved out in February 2009. She said, "Roy, I've been managing this family alone for 18 years. I need to do it officially now." She said it at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, in the same tone she used to say, "This pro forma needs another look." I didn't argue. We filed in April. My kids, Brett and Megan, weren't surprised. You're not surprised by a building collapsing when you've been watching the foundation crack. They helped where they could, then went on with their lives. I thought we were a family that had built a company. I realized later I had it backward. We were a company I had mistaken for a family. That was the pro forma. By 2012, I was in a rented apartment in Riverside doing consulting work. I was 61. I knew more about California real estate than anyone who had ever hired me, and the work was fine. Then came December 26, 2013. Christmas Day, I had invited Sandra, Brett and Megan for dinner. A reconciliation, I thought. We still talked. It looked like family. I spent the day cooking, roasted chicken, green beans with almonds, a good bottle of Cabernet. Sandra's text came at 11 a.m. "Already at Michael's family." Michael was her partner. I staring at that text for a while, then kept cooking. Brett sent a Venmo at 11:40. $50 labeled for the turkey, with the turkey emoji. Megan didn't respond at all. I set the table for 4 anyway. I don't know why. Habit or some belief that they might still come. I sat down at 7 p.m. and ate alone. I looked at the 3 empty plates. And at 7:14 p.m., I understood something. Not with grief or rage, but with a structural assessment. Like marking each wall, load-bearing or decorative. The walls I believed were load-bearing. The relationships I thought were foundational were decorative. The fire hadn't destroyed the structure. There was nothing structural there to begin with. I had priced my family the way I priced a property, by the comps. Similar investments, similar expected returns. I valued my marriage by what men like me paid for marriages like ours. I never looked at the thing itself. I never asked, what are these people actually? What is this worth? Independent of what comparable arrangements typically cost. 6,000 CMAs in 37 years. I was very good at it. I did it to everything. I washed the dishes and sat in the living room for 2 hours without doing anything. Then I went to bed. That was the pro forma. I found the Wonder Valley parcel in 2018. 5 acres and a cinder block shell for $8,200. As a CMA, it's meaningless. No comps exist for this. I bought it anyway. The first time I ever bought something without a reliable data set. I added a 12-volt solar panel, 1 light, 1 fan, and a 50-gallon water tank. That's the infrastructure of my life. The first night I slept here, I listened to the desert. It's not silent. It's the sound of creosote cracking and sand shifting. I listened for 2 hours, and I didn't think about absorption rates or personal guarantees. That was the first night in 37 years I went to sleep without running numbers. I've read 214 books since then. I keep count in a notebook. Just a number and a date. I read in the dark to dawn window, the most beautiful light the Mojave offers. Then I walk. From 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. I walk the perimeter, old habit. Then I go past the fence line into the open desert. No setbacks, no zoning. The land just goes until it doesn't. I cannot develop this land. I own something I cannot leverage or sell at a profit. The 5 acres will not appreciate, and it is the only thing I have owned in 40 years that feels true. There are things I don't think about. I don't think about Fontana or the settlement. The door to 2008 stays closed because there's nothing useful behind it. I don't think about Sandra. She's living her life accurately, and I hope she's happy. Brett named his new company Boone Capital Group. He's careful, smaller scale. I don't know if he used the name as a tribute or an inheritance he knew I couldn't contest. The math doesn't resolve it, so I've stopped running it. What still catches me is the HP-12C on the table. I've had it since 1987. The key legends are fading. I carried it through every project, every loan closing, every crisis. It was in my hand when I was calculating if we could survive the 2008 drawdown. I put it on this table in 2018, and I haven't used it since. I don't know why I keep it there. Some mornings, my hand finds it in the dark. I hold it for 3 seconds. It's heavy with context, heavy with everything I ran on it. Then I put it down and light the burner. There's nothing to run. The 12-day water cycle is my only deadline now. I drive to town, fill the tank, drive back. The score is settled for another 12 days. My old life was an infinite chain of dependent deadlines. The water tank has no dependencies. I stood at the fence line at dusk yesterday. The light was horizontal and slow. The Joshua trees were casting shadows 40 feet long. I looked at the mountains, and for a second I tried to think of the comps. What does this moment trade for? What's the comparable sale for a 65-year-old man standing in the desert at dusk? Out here, there are no comps. Every rock is worth what it weighs to you. Every morning is priced by nothing. I don't know what that makes them worth. I think that might be the whole point. I think what the desert charges you is something other than money, and what it gives you doesn't appear in any valuation model. After 37 years and $280 million and a family I turned into an organizational chart, I am watching the Joshua trees appear. The HP-12C is on the table. The coffee is ready. The spiral notebook with 214 numbers is next to the mug. I'm not sure what I built. I'm not sure it matters anymore.